Georgia is one of the most crucial battleground states in the U.S. elections. Since Bill Clinton flipped the state in 1992 to Democrat, Joe Biden did so in 2020. And the key question now is which way will Georgia go in 2024? Now, at stake are 16 electoral college votes. NDTV's Gauri Dwivedi spoke with Congressman Dr. Richard McCormick. Listen in.
As the US election entered their very last lap, we now focus on a state which is set to have the tightest race in these elections, and that is Georgia, a state where the population of Indian Americans has actually grown by 48% in the last 10 years. It has the tightest margin of swing states in 2020. In fact, Biden did flip it, but by less than 12,000 votes. Also, it's been a Republican stronghold since 2000, and could it really hold the key for the presidential election this time around is exactly the conversation that I'm going to have with Congressman Dr. Richard McCormick joining me on the show. Thank you so much, Congressman, for taking out the time and speaking to NDTV.
It's my pleasure. It's good to be with you today.
Sir, as we speak, we are talking about a state which it has the tightest election race. How do you see it on ground right now, Georgia turning out, and how critical it is for the presidential race?
I see Trump taking this state by at least 2 points. I don't think the polling is actually very accurate. When you look at the verve, if you look at the turnout, you look at the early voting, it is way over strength in districts that are conservative, such as myself, where we've reached 100% of early voting records already and surpassed them, whereas the most Democratic districts, such as Browns, are actually the lowest. So I think the excitement is with us when you talk about who's going to vote and who's going to get out there and make a difference in this election. The momentum is definitely in the conservatives' corner right now. I think we'll handle Georgia easily. I think North Carolina will also go towards the Republicans, although I think it'll be a little bit more narrow. I think it's going to be a good night. And I think we might even be able to call this election without having to wait a couple days, which would be nice.
Unlike what it was in 2020, and which is why I feel Georgia is so important. Before I come to your key priorities, in your re-election that you are seeking, I want to first also ask one question on the big picture about the presidential election, which is that why do you feel, or how confident are you that this time around it will go back to the Republican way? It's been a stronghold. Biden did flip it in 2020. What makes you confident that it will go back to being a Republican stronghold?
Well, in Georgia, you can see that things have changed over the last few years. When you see inflation where groceries are maybe 38% more expensive, people care about that. When they see their health care extremely expensive and getting worse, when they see education getting worse, when they see just filling up their car with gas is way more expensive, that matters to people. Inflation matters. They also don't like to see what's happened at the border. When you have, anybody who's immigrated here from India and understands how hard it is to immigrate legally and become a citizen, how it's a privilege. Yet people are cutting the line. They're making it difficult for people who are doing it right by breaking the law, and they've rewarded that behavior. When you talk about the increase of our population in Georgia, you said by 48% in the last 10 years. I didn't know it was that high, but let me tell you what's weird about that. We didn't get an extra electorate vote. We didn't get an extra congressman, but you know who lost congressman? Was New York, Illinois, and California. Why? Because their folks were migrating to places in the South like Georgia, Texas, and Florida, because that's where the jobs is. That's where the economy is robust. That's where we are dominating by conservative values, both Republicans, cutting taxes, cutting regulation, making it easy for businesses to flourish. They're fleeing counties and states where it is just the opposite. And that's where the Democrats have really gone off the scale. When they start to open the borders, just to have people come to their states because they're sanctuary cities where they can expand their population essentially illegally. So they'll get more electoral votes next time, and they'll actually get more congressional representation, even though they can't vote legally. They get the same representation. That's skewing the electorate, that's skewing the economy. We have to pay for it. 20 congressional districts worth of people have come across the southern border, and they are not going to pay taxes. They're not going to work. They're only going to require our resources that can't go to our veterans who've retired or the people who've been ravaged by hurricanes. This is wrong, and people know it.
In your election, what are your key priorities that you are focusing on, that you are telling your electorate on which they should vote?
So I think when it comes down to what's important to most Americans, what things unite us, what things are 60% issues, things we can actually get passed legislatively. We look at the elementary issues, A through E. A is the American dream. Why do people come here? Because we have less regulation. We're supposed to have less taxation. We have opportunities that don't exist anywhere else. We need to protect those things, our constitutional rights, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, the amendments that made this country so great. Matter of fact, India has a very similar constitution. I think that's why they're thriving as well. Protect those constitutional, that's the American dream, A. B, border, secure the border. It makes a difference in our future. It makes a difference on how we face immigration as a whole. C, crime. Crime should never be okay. The Democrats have been super light on crime. They allow the average murderer has been let out of jail 7 to 9 times. And if you look at what's happening in California and other places where they say it's okay to come in and actually walk out with groceries, walk out with goods up to $1,000, and it's okay every day. That's basically supporting criminal elements that we don't want to support. D is debt. Debt is a serious problem in the American economy right now. As we overspend, it causes inflation. It also skews our currency. Right now, we're at 130% debt to GDP ratio. That's not good. We are the world standard for currency. It's going to ruin that. It's going to be bad for our economy, bad for the world. E, and education and energy. Educational choice is what makes people have the ability to go outside of their own educational system in their district when things are bad, and you still get credits for your children. Educational, and nobody understands educational opportunities better than the Indian diaspora. We have 250,000 students here from India. We have an enormous, in my district, we have 14%. Indian diaspora, the southern areas.
I was coming to just that, Congressman, that what about the Indian diaspora that's very significant in your district, 14%? What are their key priorities? What is it that they are likely to focus on in this election?
The same thing, education. Energy, by the way, the other E, is what makes this economy drive. For hundreds of years, what's made America great is cheap, affordable energy. And we manage it better than anybody. When we do offshore drilling, we're safer. When we do transportation, we're safer. When we think about how we're going to be efficient at having multiple energy sources, that's what makes America great. All the same things that I just went over, the elementary issues, also apply to all the Indian diaspora in my district. We have an extremely high IT area of emphasis in our district. We have fintech is #1 in the world in my district. We have one of the fastest growing Indian diaspora populations in the America. And the educational opportunities here, we have 10 of the top 25 schools in Georgia. And one of the biggest reasons is we have the largest Indian diaspora. Who does academics better? Nobody. That's who. That's why we also have the top 5 in median incomes in America, because of the Indian diaspora, who are the most successful demographic in America by far. It's not even close. They only make up 1% of the population, pay 6% of the taxes. They don't break laws. They provide jobs, they provide income, they provide tax revenue because of what they do. That's an incredibly important part of the American fabric.
Right, indeed. And finally, sir, I want to ask you this question, which is that in terms of the election here, the sense one gets is it comes down to immigration, it comes down to economy, it comes down to abortion. What, according to you, is the key factor? I know you mentioned several right now. You mentioned A to E, but that one key factor that will determine this election.
Yeah, I'll quote one of my favorite presidents from 100 years ago, who had his policies resulted in the Roaring 20s, Calvin Coolidge. And he said very famously, the business of America is business. Business is what creates opportunities for everybody. Whether you come from India, Africa, South America, Europe, you come here to start a business, to be prosperous. When you're prosperous, everybody gets along. The criminal element goes away. When you're prosperous, you can fund all the things you need to fund in government. What makes us a great country is we have opportunities in business. When we protect that, we all succeed. A rising tide lifts all ships. And when you keep regulation at bay, when you decrease taxes and you allow businesses to flourish, you provide more jobs and more tax revenue. Business is the key, and that's what made America great. Think about it. America leads the world by far with GDP, $27 trillion. India is getting close. They're getting close to breaking that 5 trillion, which would put them in 3rd place in the world. And I think they will crush as they continue to expand on their burgeoning population and their economic opportunities. What Prime Minister Modi is doing is amazing. I want to make sure that we're married up with them because they're strategically important to us, not only business-wise, but also militarily, considering the unrest in that region with China. But I think these are the things that really makes us America. When you come to America, you're not looking for anything other than opportunity. Opportunity is created by business. Business is created when you create favorable environments, which is lower taxation, lower regulation, which the Democrats don't understand at all.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to NDTV on the key factors that will determine this election. It's just a matter of a couple of days. We wish you the very best, and we're going to come back and talk to you when the results come.
Great. I hope you have a blessed day. Semper Fidelis. Namaste to all my friends. Let's get this done.
Thank you.